4 years old, both making $52,000 a year. Both have heard about compound interest roughly 1 million times. On TikTok, on YouTube, from that uncle at family dinner who won't shut up about his portfolio. First person nods. Yeah, compound interest, I know. Closes the video, goes back to scrolling. Second person nods. Yeah, compound interest, I know. Opens brokerage app. Sets up automatic $300 monthly transfer. Forgets about it.
Fast forward 40 years. First guy, 64 years old, still working, 401k balance around $87,000, Googling "when can I retire" calculator at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Second guy, 64 years old, sitting on the porch of a house he paid cash for, looking at a brokerage account with $632,000 in it, thinking about where to travel next month. Same salary, same knowledge, completely different lives.
My name is Cole, and today we're breaking down the most expensive gap in personal finance. Not the gap between people who know about compound interest and people who don't. The gap between people who know and people who do. Here's what drives me insane about financial education. We treat compound interest like it's a secret, like it's some esoteric knowledge where if you just learn about it, your life will magically change. Every finance influencer makes the same damn video. Here's the compound interest formula. Dramatic music, charts going up and to the right. Look how $100 a month becomes $1 million.
And you know what? They're right. The math is absolutely correct. $100 a month invested from 25 to 65 at 10% average annual returns, which is roughly what the S&P 500 has historically done, becomes $632,000. Not $100,000, not $200,000. $632,000 from the $48,000 you contributed. Here's the problem.
100% of people watching finance content already know about compound interest. Maybe not the exact formula, but the concept, money grows over time, starting early matters, yeah, they've heard it. According to the National Endowment for Financial Education, 76% of Americans claim they understand compound interest. According to Vanguard, the median 401k balance for Americans aged 55 to 64, people who've had 30 to 40 years to accumulate, is $71,168.
Not $632,000. $71,000. So either the math is lying, which it's not, or knowing about compound interest means absolutely nothing. And it's the second one. Let me show you something nobody talks about. There's a concept in behavioral economics. It's called the intention-action gap. People who study behavior change are obsessed with this because it shows up everywhere. 88% of people who buy a gym membership in January stop going by March. 92% of New Year's resolutions fail by February. 80% of people who download a budgeting app stop using it within a month.
The problem is never knowledge. The problem is that knowledge requires zero effort. Action requires everything. Here's what happens when the average person learns about compound interest. They watch the video. They think, oh, that makes sense. I should start investing. Then life happens. The car payment, a spontaneous weekend trip, Netflix raised their price again. New phone because the old one cracked. Well, I mean, it technically still works, but the screen, you know. And every month they don't start investing, the brain does what brains do. It rationalizes. I'll start when I get that raise. I'll start when I pay off this car loan. I'll start when I have more in savings. I'll start next month when things calm down a bit. Next month never comes.
Because here's the dirty secret about compound interest that finance gurus don't explain. The actual behavior required to benefit from compound interest is psychologically designed to feel pointless. Think about what you're actually doing when you invest $300 a month at 24 years old.
You're taking money you could spend on something. You just spent an entire year being disciplined, and you made $150. That's $12.50 a month. That's not even a decent lunch. Your coworker just bought a new MacBook. Your friend went to Cabo. Your Instagram feed is full of people doing things that look way more rewarding than watching a number barely move. This is where 90% of people quit.
Not in year 20 when it's actually working. In year 2 when it feels broken. Because compound interest in the early years doesn't feel like compound interest. It feels like a high-yield savings account with extra steps. But here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean this is the part that changes everything if you can just hold on long enough to see it. There's a moment, and nobody tells you about this moment, where your investment account stops being a savings account and becomes a money machine. It's called the crossover point.
Let me show you exactly when it happens. You're investing $300 a month. That's $3,600 a year. Year 1, you contribute $3,600. The market gives you maybe $180 in returns. You did all the work. Year 5, you contribute $3,600. The market gives you about $2,400. You're still doing most of the work. Year 8, you contribute $3,600. The market gives you about $3,200. Getting closer.
Year 9. You contribute $3,600. The market gives you $3,750.
Wait, read that again. In year 9, for the first time in your investing life, your money made more money than you contributed. Your investments earned more than you did through discipline. You've crossed over.
And here's the part that breaks people's brains. Every year after that, the gap gets wider. By year 15, you're putting in $3,600 and the market is giving you $11,000. By year 20, you're putting in $3,600 and the market is handing you $23,000. By year 30, you're putting in $3,600 and your account is growing by $52,000 that year.
Your money is doing a full-time job while you sleep. It's earning more than most Americans make in salary, and you're just existing, going about your life. This is what compound interest actually is. Not a formula on a whiteboard. A point in time where money becomes self-replicating. But you only get there if you survive the boring part first.
The part where it looks like nothing is happening. The part where your friends think you're broke because you're not buying the things they're buying. The part where the account balance doesn't feel impressive and the discipline doesn't feel rewarding. That part lasts about 8 to 10 years, and most people quit in year 3.
So why does knowing about compound interest not help? Because knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two completely different things. Your rational brain understands that $300 a month for 40 years becomes $632,000, but your emotional brain, the part that actually controls your behavior, doesn't think in decades. It thinks in right now.
And right now, $300 buys you things that feel good immediately. A nice dinner, new shoes, a concert ticket, the thing you've been wanting on Amazon. That's real. That's tangible. That's satisfying today. $300 into a brokerage account buys you a number that goes up by maybe $15 this month, if you're lucky. That's not satisfying. That's not even noticeable.
So your emotional brain does the math and says, this is a terrible trade. And it's right.
For the first decade, it is a terrible trade, measured by immediate satisfaction. The only reason to make that trade is if you trust the math more than you trust your feelings. And most people don't.
Here's the other problem. Knowledge assumes you'll act on it. But action requires a completely different thing. It requires a system. The person at the coffee shop who ends up with $632,000 didn't succeed because they knew more about compound interest. They succeeded because they automated the behavior before their brain had a chance to negotiate with itself every month.
Automatic transfer. Day after payday. Money leaves before they see it. They removed willpower from the equation entirely. Because here's what nobody tells you about willpower. It's a depletable resource. You have a certain amount of it every day, and every decision you make, every temptation you resist, every impulse you control drains a little bit of it.
By 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, after a long day of work, after saying no to lunch out, after resisting the Instagram ad for the third time, your willpower is gone. That's when you're supposed to open your brokerage app and manually transfer $300? You're not going to do it. Not because you're weak, because you're human.
Automation doesn't require willpower. Automation just requires a one-time setup and then amnesia. Set it and genuinely forget it exists. The person who ends up broke isn't stupider. They just kept their investing tied to a daily decision instead of making it a system.
Now let's talk about the thing that should genuinely scare you. The cost of waiting. Let's say you're 25 right now. You're thinking, yeah, I should probably start investing. I'll do it next year when I get that raise. Next year comes, you're 26. Okay, for real this time. Maybe after I pay off the car. You're 28. I really need to start. Once I hit 30, I'm doing it.
You're 32. You finally start. $300 a month. Same amount the other person started with at 24. You feel good. You're finally investing. You're being responsible. Here's what you just did. By waiting 8 years, you didn't just miss 8 years of contributions. You missed the 8 years that had the longest time to compound.
The money you would have invested at 24 had 41 years to grow. The money you're investing at 32 has 33 years. That 8-year delay doesn't cost you 8 years of returns. It costs you roughly $280,000 by the time you're 65. Let me say that again. Waiting from 24 to 32 to start investing $300 a month costs you more than $250,000 in final wealth.
You didn't contribute less money. You contributed 8 years less, which is about $28,800. But the compound growth you missed is worth $280,000. That's a 10x multiplier on the cost of procrastination. And the crazy part? Most people don't start at 32. According to Vanguard, the average age when Americans open their first retirement account is 37. 13 years of delay. Roughly $450,000 in lost compound growth. Gone, because I'll start next year repeated itself for over a decade. Here's the thing about time in compound interest. You can't get it back. Ever. You can always make more money. You can't make more time.
A 40-year-old who just learned about this can't go back and invest at 24. That window is closed permanently. But a 24-year-old watching this right now has something the 40-year-old would pay 6 figures to have back. Time. And you're deciding right now whether to use it or waste it.
So if knowledge doesn't work, what does? 3 things, and they're stupidly simple, which is why nobody does them. 1. Automate before you're ready. Don't wait until you have enough to invest.
Don't wait until you understand the market better. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Open a brokerage account today. Set up an automatic transfer of whatever amount doesn't require you to change your current lifestyle.
$50 a month, 100, 200, whatever. The amount matters way less than the automation. Because once it's automatic, you stop making the decision every month. It just happens, and your lifestyle adjusts around what's left. 2. Start so small it feels embarrassing. This is counterintuitive, but it works. If you try to start by investing $500 a month when you've never invested before, you'll feel the pain immediately. You'll notice the missing money. You'll resent the sacrifice. You'll quit. If you start with $75 a month, you won't even notice it's gone after 2 weeks.
Most people can't do that. Not because they're dumb, because they're human. And being human means your brain is wired for immediate gratification, not delayed compounding. But if you can just override that wiring one time, set up the automation, walk away, let time do the work, you end up in a completely different financial universe than the people who kept meaning to start next year. The guy at the coffee shop with $632,000 at 64 didn't get there because he was smarter. He got there because he set up a $300 transfer at 24 and forgot it existed. That's the whole story.
If this clicked for you, hit subscribe, because most of what you've been told about money is either incomplete or designed to benefit someone other than you. And I'm going to keep breaking down what actually works versus what just sounds good in a TikTok caption. I'll see you in the next one.